thought I'd show you guys real quick something that I did. If you ever have any kind of breakables that you need to keep multiple in a box and you need to keep them upright and you need to pad them and pack them safe that they're not going to get broken, the easiest thing to do is to actually create a box divider, which is what I did here. I want to show you real quick what you do. Basically, you're going to figure out how many like little cubbies or squares you're going to need for your box, and you're just going to basically kind of eyeball it with the items you're putting in there, and then use the items again to try and eyeball how wide you need them and everything. But you're going to cut your length and your width however many pieces you need, and then line them up to make the appropriate sized little square cubbies for your item. Best to actually put one of the items position, and then what you're going to do is once you have them positioned and lined up, you're going to cut a single straight slit in your bottom base piece, and that's going to be facing upward. And then on your ones that are going across the width, you're also going to create a slit that is going to line up with the slit on your other piece. And I just did this real quick for example. And then if you just kind of wiggle them apart very, very slightly like this with your fingers, not a lot, just to help separate them. And then you're just going to slide these. I don't know if I can do this and hold the camera, but we're going to try. We're going to slide one into the other. There you go. So it hits the floor. And then you have your little box divider. And then you're just going to, throw it in your box. Again, I just made this for example. And that'll create your divider. And creating just one slit instead of actually cutting out a square or anything, they're going to hold pretty tight. And as you can see, and I cut this one pretty tight. You can see these squares. Just turn the box upside down and they're not falling apart. So they're pretty sturdy. And you could always cut a slit in just your top piece, or in my case, my length weight, my one's going width ways, and then just slide those down onto your middle piece or whatever you're considering your backbone. But then they're not going to sit flush with the floor. Your middle ones won't sit flush with the floor, so that's why I cut a slit on both sides. But when I did some vases earlier, which are just round ones, I didn't really care. So I just cut out, instead of doing slits, I actually cut out a little more. Like I actually cut out like a little skinny rectangle from there and just popped them in. I could move them around as I needed, and then I actually packed newspaper or any kind of other padding around there. And you would do the same thing. In this case, you'd put in your breakable items, and then you're going to use packing peanuts or bubble wrap or newspaper. You can get it free and cheap. And then just newspaper, whatever, crumple it, packed it around, or you could take the newspaper and you can actually roll it into cones and just kind of put it there like around your item. You could also just fold it and then lay the folds along here. Let me actually go show you that. Another thing too is if you just need to partition a box, you can just do one partition. And then let me show you what I did here. Just did this here for some items I did. I didn't make partitions for the actual items. I just made one. So I have my breakables here that, I'm just trying to get them to stay standing up. I don't need, trying to prevent the flowers from getting smashed. But then I have other items that are part of the same decorative setup that are actually going to go over here. So the partition is just to keep them standing to separate the items. And then what I did was I just put some duct tape. You could use packing tape on either side, both side of the partition. That way it doesn't slide around. It holds in place exactly where I need it to be. So you can see how I put that, and I just pushed it into the corner or the edge when I laid it so it holds really, really tight. But as I was saying with newspaper, you can just fold your pieces of newspaper, which is all I did, and then I'm just sliding it in here. It's just folded newspaper. I just slid it in between, which just makes a bit of a partition. I mean, these are in here really tight. This is holding it really tight. They're not going to slide around much. These are plastic. You know, I don't think anything's going to get broke. There was no need to do partitions. And as you can see, I have awkward shaped items, so partitions wouldn't have worked. But down in this box, I actually have a bunch around vases. I'll give you a link to a picture of those. And I did partitions, and there's actually 2 layers of them. So in this box, I have a partition. I have 1 backbone and then 2 going with Y. So I have 6 partitions per thing. And then I actually cut a piece that's as long and wide as the box to create a second floor, basically. So I just set that in on top of those vases and then put another partition on top of that. And again, I did this little tape trick here with the partitions to make sure that they're not gonna slide on me. These are the ones that I had to constantly be moving them because I actually packed those with crumpled newspaper instead of something more like this or bubble wrap or anything. So, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask.